What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This is Max from Overland, and this is All Things Overland. And today we're talking about Kong and the suspension. Now, you guys know that I've been talking about in the recent months that we're unhappy with the timbering system. To be quite honest, not to speak negatively of the suspension system, but I would not call it a suspension system. I would call it a bumper system. And the reason why I say that is because the first mod that I had to do, which would be timbering 1.0, would be adding these shock hoop risers so I can install my Gladiator factory shocks to help with a lot of road chatter and immediate deflection off of rocks and stuff, because when this thing hits before those shocks, it would just rebound all the way down and then slam back up and just bounce, bounce, bounce. I still have basically no compression control because the shock X is some of it, but really the shock is having to do all the work because the rubber block in there essentially is a hard piece of rubber block, and so you can imagine that's its process of movement. So I added that. We all know watching this channel that I wheel pretty hard, and this guy gets wheeled really hard too. He's got, I think, 36,000 miles on him in 4 years. So a lot of miles, but he's holding up great. But one of the things I wanted to change was the suspension, and this is why. The timbering is not okay for what I do. If you literally do smooth fire roads only, then you're probably okay. Still, there's no suspension, and it rattles the out of everything that you have, and it's very harsh on the trailer. The chassis, the frame, the box, I just don't understand it. So we're gonna modify what's there, and we're gonna take it to, unfortunately and fortunately, through development, I'm gonna take this from the shock and timbrum to a shock and coil setup. Now, how I'm gonna build it is gonna be a little different. We are gonna raise it some because it's never been equal height to most of the vehicles I have. Partly that's due to the fact that the little tires, but then separately it's part of the fact that the tires and rig setups that I go with are generally bigger. So it needs to have a little clearance. The funny thing about it, how I plan on doing it, is I plan to use the skeleton basis of the timbering, because how it's built really is a good platform for me to start off. What I'm going to use the same arms, the same action points, and the same pivot points, but I'm just going to lengthen them. So I'm going to make them a long arm. It's going to be a long arm timbrum with minus the rubber bushings. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of walk you through what I'm going to do once I get pulled apart, and you can see visually what I'm talking about and why there's the lack of suspension. It's more like a bumper system, meaning it just basically absorbs anything. It doesn't rebound, it doesn't control compression or rebound, it basically just absorbs, and it does a really shoddy job at that. So, I'm going to use a little cheater method and get a little extra length on this pipe. No reason in blowing something out when you cheat like that. Makes it super easy. So, get this guy back off. And what's funny is you'll now see why. I know you can't hear me or see me, but you'll now see why. When I pull this tire out, why there's so little articulation in it. And on some roads that where the corrugation is spread apart, it'll start bouncing, bam, 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 and it just won't stop. And so generally I'll have to slow down, let it gather itself, and then start speeding up again. And it drives me bananas. And you'll see why. There's, I think, 6 inches of articulation in it. Like 3 up, 3 down. It's pretty terrible. Especially for, you know, if you want to call this an overland trailer, fine. If you want to say that timber and suspension's okay for overland trailers, fine. It is not suspension for an off-road trailer. Completely different. So, oh, this is perfect, guys. Okay, so, I'll bring it in here. So, now you see what I'm talking about. So what I'm gonna do is, I was kind of working through this with a good friend of mine, and he said, well, let's, you know, what could you do to leave the wheel position right here? Well, you could lengthen the arm and move it back there. So because of this fender rail, the actual connective part of the bracket and arm system where it pivots would have to be moved back about where the jack stand is. And it always happens. The phone rings. Hold on, guys. Okay. Anyway, what I was saying is, we'll look at it now. But, so the length of the arm currently, right now, the length of this arm, so from the center of the pivot point to the center of the axle, which I could probably do that this way. Oh, that's terrible. It's 9.5 inches. It's 9.5. So the arm itself is 9.5 inches, and right now we've got 1.25 inches of travel. That's up and down. Because obviously, if it went farther up, the wipe would be farther down. If it went farther down and hung, you can see it right now. Let's see how far it'll go. Oh, we got a little bit. Okay, that's jack free. We got a little bit out of it, guys. So we had a little bit more travel than that. My bad. Oh, it's still disgusting. It's 1.5 inches. So we got another quarter. So we got 1.5 inches of travel up and down. That's terrible. This thing is not super heavy, but it is somewhat heavy for this type of suspension. It's 2,400 pounds, or 2,250. It's 2,250 pounds. That's loaded with all my boxes in it and all these tanks full like we're going on a trip. It's 2,250 pounds. So 1.5 inches of travel with 2,250 pounds is terrible. So if our arm is 9.5 inches long, and because this step is in my way, and I need to get out here, oh gosh, now you see the jack stand in the distance. So this arm is going to be huge. So say it's the center of it's right there. It's 35 inches. And I mean, we could move it back to about 24 inches. It's pretty nice. Right there is pretty good. I think we've got a new direction to go. And I think that new direction is going to be coming up right now. So, I've been thinking. For a long time, I've been thinking. So, traditionally, the long arm would be extended that way over there and then come this way, and then this would be the hub assembly. But then I got to thinking, so there's more articulation in here, but you see this pad right here? It's like that thick. So I'm guessing, you know, probably almost 3.5 inches thick. So we know that it'll go up 3.5 more inches. And it's stopping from going down. So we have more articulation in it. Even though it's a short arm, we have some more articulation in it. Being that that's stopping it, it's not acting like a bump stop. It's just adhered to both edges, so it can't separate. So my question is, if I cut that out, how much mobility would I have? Well, I would have quite a bit. And so my thought was, what if we extended from here, which is the back of the plate, and I'll show you here in a second, extended it this way 10 inches. And if we extended it 10 inches this way, we could set our spring perch in there where it would be in a situation like this, right? And so it'd be set at an angle. And when I measured it, you know, down from here down to about here where it was, the 10 inches, it was about 11.5 inches upward. So that's actually a significant amount of space for a coil spring, because obviously the way a coil spring works is the more tightly it wraps, the more rigidity it has. And so you don't always have to have a whole lot of space to make a coil spring work, but I think that may work. What I don't have is 1/2 inch plate. This is all 1/2 inch. So I think what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to go that route. I think what I'm going to do is create a Mary plate. And I'll show you here, like I said, here in a second. Here, let's just show that now. Right. Na, 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 na. Let me see if I can get you guys in a situation where you can see what I'm talking about, where I can point. So when you're looking at it now, this point right here, this plate, if you took off the 4 bolts and the shock wasn't attached, the whole hub assembly would come off. So my thought is to cut that same shape, right, like this, across, go straight across, and maybe even bring it higher. Since this will be removed, I can bring it higher so I can weld across the front of that, but separate this by another 1/2 inch plate that comes down 10 inches and put a razor rib underneath it, standing up like this, so that it goes back down into the main support arm, and then put my coil bucket here. And then your coil would be at an angle. So that would give us our flex down and flex up without having to cut all this off the frame and move it down there. And I think it would still accomplish what we're trying to accomplish, because again, remember, we're using the shock in itself for basically compression. We're not really using it for rebound and dampening, but we're definitely using it for the compression side of it. So I think if we had that coil spring back here acting as what we were using for a rebound and compression as the main suspension component, and then this became secondary, I think it would accomplish what we need. Not to mention, I think with bringing it down, it'll allow me to add some lift to this trailer without having to go right to bigger tires. Now, I will be putting a bigger tire on it, and that's something I'll have to address at some point, because these rails are barely big enough for, it's like a 30.5, almost a 31, barely big enough for that. So I'd have to address that at that point. But I think that that's what I'm going to do. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that coil spring at an angle like this. Okay, you can see we just got back from the metal yard and we got that right there. Thankfully they were open this morning. And then now we really need to get onto this dude. I basically need to go ahead and pull this apart, separate everything. That way I can use the bottom piece of that hub that attaches back to the arm as the jig for where the holes go. Then I need to get over there and cut it long. It's gonna be 15 inches long, is what we'll call it, the coil plate will be based out of. So the coil plate will be 15 inches long. I need to get it cut and get it put in place. That way I can drill some holes, bolt it in, and start mock up for what I need to do on the underneath side of this trailer to receive another coil cup. And so I'm sure it'll become some lateral bracing and some plate, and then it'll be the coil bucket. And then basically that's about all you need. You move it down, put your coil in, and then put the weight back on it. That's what holds it. Now I will be ordering limit straps once I get it complete. So let's keep crushing, man. That's what we're doing, is knocking things out. I'm trying not to throw in all the metal cutting and all that stuff, only because it takes so long. Here, let me just get you guys back. It takes so long and it doesn't really teach you guys anything. So cutting's cutting, right? So anyway, here's the way it would be situated, okay? And so this would be on the bottom side of the extension. This part would be in this area, and then this would house the spring, okay? Spring sits in it just like this. And then this, what we just cut, and this is heavy, it's 3/8 by 5-inch ID, 5.5 OD. Anyway, this will be the one that we put up top that encapsulates it. And I have a lid somewhere, let me get it. This lid will act as the cover, see? And so this right here, obviously I can't hold it, but you'll see, will be your coil top hat. So that's a DIY coil top hat. And so obviously that'll be stuck between the top hat and the lower control arm mount from the weight of the trailer, obviously, right? So that'll create your suspension. And then the strap, the limiting strap, like on normal suspension, will stop it from opening wide enough to where the spring could come out. So we'll make it probably 2 inches short, because those limiting straps can stretch up to 1 inch. So I'd like a little 1/2 inch variance on both sides. So we'll do that, and that should create this. Now, we won't leave it the entire width. I'll kind of draw you guys something after I get it marked up here and on this. how I'm gonna cut it out. I am gonna cut it out and shave some of the weight off of it because we don't need it for rigidity, but I'm gonna cut some of that off and kind of shape it a little bit so it doesn't necessarily just look like some square, you know, piece of metal afterthought. I'll shape it in and make it look pretty decent. So let's keep going. So I drew you a little picture. So listen, don't hurry your fabrication. Okay? Take your time. Even I mess up, like I messed up right here because of how I had the hub assembly set up. I did it on the wrong side. So this is the top side. So you'll see. I don't want to hear anything negative in the comments. Anyway, so I'll take this off here and I'll take, see this section here? I'll take that off as well, that top corner right here. And then your lower coil bucket will be right here. This will be cleared, this will be cleared. And this is the piece that actually will go between the bracket assembly of this hub and the lower control arm of the trailer. I got longer bolts, we'll drill those out and that'll go all the way through. And that will, it seems strange, but this is 3/8 plate. Just taking off what I'm taking off will dramatically change how heavy this is. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that off and then clean it up, put it on the drill press, put my holes in it, and then I'm gonna go over there and run a couple bolts in it and do some test fitting. Because at that point, I'll know where the bottom shock coil bucket's gonna be. And so I could even put it in place and tack it. But what I'd like to do first before I do anything is go ahead and attach it to the arm assembly and rotate it up and see where my clearances are. And then go ahead and make preparations to attach the lower bucket. Because then, once I attach the lower bucket, I can put that coil in and I could use the jack to rotate it up into a position where I need to be. Then it'll tell me where the top hat's gonna be, what bracing I need to make, and then I can go ahead and fix my top hat. So it's definitely coming along, and I definitely think what I'm gonna do is I've got some pretty fat 1/4-inch angle iron over there. I think I'm gonna build a box for it, go ahead and gusset it, build a box in, and then go from there. Because what I don't wanna do is have it pop through the floor. So what I'll do is I'm gonna take my measurements, I'm gonna build a box, go ahead, then put that in on the subfloor where the rectangle pipe is, weld that in, and then I'll be able to weld in this top hat into that, and then we should have some pretty good rigidity there. Because we have two corners of attachment, we're creating a second and a third. So it should be pretty good. Then we just have to recreate it on the other side. Let's roll. Whoa. Huh? Let's see what we can do. Let's see if I did it right. See, when you see this shape, you'll kind of understand why. So underneath here, this obviously this axle leg, or we'll say this lower control arm, is in line with the frame rail. So obviously I couldn't put the spring here because then it would shove the bag back here. So I had to set it off so I could gain an extra 2 inches from this tube going upward. So now my angle from here is not as great, and obviously it's longer because now I added 2 inches of depth going upward. So that's exactly why it's built the way it is. Once I get it together, you guys will kind of better understand when you see it setting here, I think. for now, I think I'm going to use the shorties. Easier. Put that bad boy right there real quick. Get this on him. And then get one more in place. And then hopefully it'll make sense. And I'll switch the camera angle here in a second so that you kind of understand what I'm doing. But for now, I just wanted to get this on real quick because I'm going to hit it with the impact, but just as a means to get it set up and see what it does. Let's see. Who is who? Now, I ought to be able to move it around, move the jack, and accentuate the arm so that you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so first of all, I wanted to say thanks for watching, and I know this is fabrication videos are always detail oriented for me because I like teaching and I like people to see how I'm doing things. So thanks for watching along. This is probably going to be a two-part series because it's going to take me 2 videos to complete the thing, just the way it is. But I got it in, and I think you can kind of see a little bit of the remnants right there. I want to go ahead and show it to you. But first, I want to say thanks again. And listen, this year was a pretty good year for me. We have one more video to release this year, but I do appreciate all the following. And so that being said, I'll show you this. But remember, I have a Patreon, and all this stuff that I use, the flap discs, the cutting wheel, the metal I just went and bought for this, it comes out of my own pocket. So on the screen, you can see where you can click a little button and you can donate to me right on the screen. You don't have to go anywhere. You can go right to that thing and just donate to me that way. There's shirts and swag running below the description in this video. And then also I have a Patreon. It's www.patreon.com/MaximumOverland. I'll continue showing you guys how I do things, and we have a lot of things coming up in the beginning of the year, so that's a really cool thing. Okay, so we're coming to the end of this video. I wanted to show, I'm super particular, if you guys are just now joining the channel, I'm super particular on my fab videos because I really like to teach you guys and teach people. Obviously it's going to be detail oriented. I'm going to go through the steps and I'm going to show you what I'm doing. A lot of times if you're a fabricator, some of the things that you know what I'm doing, or if you do suspension, you're going to kind of understand where I'm going with things. But if not, I like to explain things. Real quick, like and share and subscribe to this video. It's free for you guys. It helps me out. I had a crazy year, tore this bicep. It took me 6 months out of the game. I'm back on it, but I lost a lot of traction, and I was hoping to get to 5,000 subscribers this year. It's only my second complete year, so I'm back on, and so my hopes for 2024 is to at least reach 5,000. I think I put out a good product, and I sure do a lot of teaching, and from that, I appreciate all the following. Thank you guys very much. Women, thank you very much. Whoever's out there doing and liking these videos, thank you very much. You can click the screen, and right there you can donate something to me right there if you want to, for the flap discs or the metal or anything like that. All of it goes right back into the channel. Other than that, I have a Patreon, www.patreon.com/MaximumOverland. You can do it that way. I appreciate anything that I get. All of this stuff goes on. Patreon members, you get to see these videos 3 days in advance. And then I post information just about what's going on with the channel and what's coming up. So anyway, thank you. This is the end of a 2-part series, but I'll show you what we got now, and at least now you'll know what I was thinking when we very started this video on conceptually how to add a better suspension to this. Check it out. All right. So now I think you guys understand what I was doing. Does it make sense now? So all we have left to do now, I was trying to figure out the angle and how much compression I'm going to need out of that spring to understand how long to make them. And so I think right now, that's a pretty good weight. I can actually lift the weight of the trailer with the jack now. So that spring obviously is made for lifting an entire Gladiator, and this trailer weighs 2,250 pounds altogether loaded. So half of that obviously is that. And so I'm already at that point right now, just hitting that. I already started lifting the trailer. So I know that now I can probably take off about 2 inches of that spring. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the spring cup and everything completed up under here, and then box it in. Obviously you guys will see that in the next video, but I'll get it boxed in. We'll see that, and then basically what I'll do is I'll put it all together with a wheel on it and set the weight down on it, and we'll see what it looks like. And then from there I'll be able to tell, do I need to take some spring out or do I need longer springs? But anyway, that's what it is. Check it out. I think it's going to be cool. And remember, off the back right there, we'll end up putting a stopping strap, so that limit strap will stop it from opening all the way up. But now the articulation is bananas, comparatively speaking. So up there you can see how the arm is flat against the frame, and now we're going to have lots of articulation and lots of compression to assist in, you know, stopping the bouncing of this thing. Anyway, check it out. I appreciate it. I like you guys watching this stuff. I appreciate the follow. And you know what? Hopefully, we can get this side done not too long from now. And then this dude will be back on the trail. And of course, obviously I'll take it down the trail, bombing it, make sure that it works.
Get on your feet, there's sights to see. Rolling hills or city streets, ocean to ocean and all in between. It's out there just waiting on you and me. Take it in, we got no plans. Good things come to those who can. Live moments